Hello everybody, JGC Anime here, and today we are going to be reviewing By the Grace of the Gods 2, or Kamitachi ni Horuwareta Otoko second season. I probably said that wrong, but we're just going to roll with it. So, this is the second season to the show, By the Grace of the Gods. I reviewed that show a little while back, and after season 2 came out, I put it off for a while, but finally decided to sit down and watch it, and today I'm going to talk about it. So, yeah. So, what is the story of By the Grace of the Gods 2? Basically, now that the main character, Ryoma, has managed to set up his little laundromat, he's starting to wonder, after some of his workers have recommended to him, whether he should expand his business or not. And that's where we kick off. He's considering it, and we're trying to see where things go from there. So, yeah, there's so much that happens in this to the point of ridiculousness that that's all I can really say. But we're just gonna roll with it. So, yeah. So, and spoiler-free thoughts. This was boring. I'm not even gonna lie. This anime was boring. Like, holy crap. The first season was like charming and relaxed, where it had some boring moments here and there, but it was still had enough in it that I could really get into it and thought, oh wow, this is actually a decently fun time. But now it's just straight up boring. Like, this season has so little that happens that impacts the plot that I'm amazed that this even exists. Because, like, if you took this out, then literally almost nothing would change. Some, like, new characters are added, but it's just nothing happens. Like, I mean, yes, stuff happens. It's a 12-episode anime, but nothing happens that really feels like it impacts the plot. And anything that feels like it should impact the plot gets, like, just disregarded or just removed almost immediately. And it's so frustrating because I really want to like the show, but let's just talk about some of the things that I have issues with without spoiling anything. So, one thing I have to say that is an issue is the characters of this show are too nice. Like, literally every single character the Ryoma meets is just literally the most generic, bare-bones character you'll ever meet. There is literally nobody in this show, besides a few minor antagonists, that have any other personality. Almost all of them are the same, like, blank slate, generic, like, they all have the same attitude, just with different, like, designs. That's it. Every single character is too dang nice, and I hate that because there's never conflict. Every character is either super understanding or super chill. Like, there's nobody who actually feels differently about these situations and everything that's set up in the show. Everything is just too dang peaceful, and I hate that. It's just, again, in the first season, you know, we're still establishing everything. You know, Ryoma's getting used to this new world he's in. The peacefulness was fine. It worked in that story sense. But now that he's off on his own without the people originally in his life to support him, now that he's off on his own doing his own thing, I didn't realize how boring his life would truly be had to be been given a different cast of characters, since the cast we're given with this and everything else is just so bland and so dull. And it's honestly frustrating because there were parts in this season that I actually did enjoy, but they were so rare and few. And overall, it's so bland. The characters have no personality. Ryoma himself practically has no personality. He never goes through any struggles. He's able to do all this cool stuff. And I'm just like, why? It's so frustrating because I want to like this show, but there's nothing about it that really stands out. And I can go a bit more into why in the spoiler section, but overall, the whole show in this season feels so empty and devoid of anything to really make it interesting and cool, and I hate that. It's just so frustrating how dull and empty it is. But as I mentioned before, we can talk about it in the spoiler section, so we're just gonna hop into that right now. Here's a timestamp to when the spoilers will end. If you have seen this season, I recommend sticking around, but if you haven't, you can skip to the end if you don't want to hear spoilers. But if you have seen it, I'd recommend sticking around to hear my thoughts. And yeah, I'm gonna catch up for 5 and enter the spoiler section. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So, what do I mean by how boring and bland this show is? Well, literally every single new character that gets introduced that I feel like is meant to have an important piece of the plot doesn't have a personality. As I mentioned, nobody has a personality in the show. I remember when a new character showed up that went by the name of Miyabi, who is like this guy called Pylo's daughter, and their whole thing, I thought she was going to be a kind of interesting character because her design made her kind of give me the idea that she would have a unique personality in comparison to a lot of the other characters, but Nope, she's just as bland as the rest of them. Similar to Pilo as well. Or Piolo, whatever the heck his name is. Like, both of them are just as bland as the rest. There's nothing about them that says, I'm a unique character, and they don't affect the plot whatsoever. If you remove them and replace them with, like, generic NPCs, nothing would change. Because it's just so frustrating, because this whole show, I remember when watching season 1, it was really charming. Like, there were a lot of moments in this that I thought, oh, that's really nice, that's really cool. And this season, there is none of that. It is just so devoid of any truly interesting plot points. And it's just the main character of Ryoma going from thing to thing to thing. And the worst part is, the pacing is all over the place. Like, one moment he's covering one thing, the next he's covering another. Like, I remember one of the few interesting things that was happening this season was when some other business was trying to put a bad name on somebody, and that involved getting Ryoma's business to look bad. So they were trying to, like, give it the store Ryoma was running bad reviews by, like, tearing up the dirt on, or tearing up their shirts and getting dirt on their clothes, but it not working out because, you know, they ended up not being able to beat Ryoma and how he managed to maneuver out of their lies. But that storyline, it was actually really interesting, especially since later on, they even tried to kidnap Ryoma and some of his employees and stuff like that, or at least I know they tried to kidnap Ryoma at the very least, and they end up failing because things don't work out. And I thought that would be a really interesting storyline to kind of like cover throughout the season, slowly building up to this mysterious group of people that are trying to get rid of him. That's resolved in like a few episodes, like maybe less than 2 episodes. It's all resolved. And then we move on to the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. It's like there's a constant stream of new storylines being chopped up every single like other episode, and it's so frustrating. I remember when Ryoma got into this new town, and he was ready to set up a second store and everything. That's also resolved in like 2 episodes, maybe even less than that. I don't even remember. But it's so frustrating because of how much like chopped up pacing is going through everything. And it's just so frustrating because I want to get invested in these characters in the story, but there's not really a story there. There's literally nothing here to work with. Like, Ryoma doesn't change in personality. He's the same simple, kind young boy as he was in the first season, and there was nothing to really add on to his character. And none of the other characters helped at all. Like, none of them added anything. All they did was just kind of say how great Ryoma was, how cool he was, how awesome he was, and that's all they do. Basically, it's literally just everybody complimenting the MC and looking dumb in order to prop him up. I still remember actually reading this review after I finished the show where somebody said how it's strange how one of these mysterious things with slimes was discovered by Ryoma when it should have been obvious from the beginning. It's like he learned that slimes evolve through eating, and that's something that should have been obvious from the beginning with these slime researchers, but they didn't know that. And it's just like, that person made a good point. Like, how could they not have realized this? Like, if they've been researching slimes way longer than Ryoma has, I feel like they should have figured this out. And it's just showing that the rest of the characters are prompted to be dumb, so Ryoma can look like the big smartster of the group. I don't even know if that's a word, but basically, they're just trying to build Ryoma up. He's literally like a Pokemon protagonist where everybody's rooting for them, being like, oh yeah, this person's great, this person's awesome, this person's amazing. And I just sit there being like, could you all stop trying to inflate this boy's ego? It's honestly getting kind of sickening. And then there's this whole thing where Ryoma magically gets the ability to do all these other things, not because of the fact that he learns to do them. It's just like, oh yeah, by the way, my dad actually trained me how to use a katana. Where was this? Where was this information during the last season? And it's just like, I don't know, just By the Grace of the Gods 2 just really does not hit me in any good way. And what's worse is that I can't even give it like a bad rating or anything because in the end, it was just okay. And that's what I hate about it. Like, even though I keep complaining about it, I'm not gonna deny there were moments I did enjoy myself. There's literally like a whole like side plot episode where we end up focusing on the girl from the previous season known as Ilaria or whatever her name is. And that episode was actually kind of decent. It wasn't amazing, but it was a good kind of like fresh step in comparison to everything else we've been watching. And it's just kind of frustrating that we ended up like leaving after that one episode because that was one of the few things that was actually kind of interesting about this show. Just overall, it feels like there wasn't much happening this season. It feels like it was a waste of time. And when it was over and I was done, all I could think was, wow, I just wasted multiple hours of my life, because just, it didn't have anything worth watching. I'd rather sit through so many other things than this. It was just so bland. It was so boring, and honestly, I really didn't get into it. And I really hate that I can't even say that it's terrible, because I had moments where I enjoyed myself, so I can't give it the worst rating in the world. Still though, it wasn't that good. There were so many moments where I was just like, are you kidding me? And I still remember one issue that's been persistent throughout every single episode, and that is the way I feel while I'm watching. Like I mentioned how the pacing is really, really fast. Like it's chopping from thing to thing to thing. Even though it's going by so fast, it also feels so slow. Like I remember usually around the 15-minute mark of almost every single episode, I'd always think, are we done yet? Are we done yet? Can we be done now? I'm bored. And I just, it always feels like it's going way longer than it should. And it's so frustrating that as much as I really enjoyed season 1's more chill aspects, there's just too much chill in this season. And what's worse is that when there are a bit more, like there's a bit more of a plot going on, it's resolved fairly quickly and not really dove into much more. Like when Ryoma goes off for this group of adventurers and finds like this secret all-powerful tree that's creating a bunch of these other tree monsters, and it turns out there was some kind of like wizard thing that fell down under the tree and it absorbed it or something. That sounded kind of interesting, but you know, we covered that whole thing in like an episode. It's just, By the Grace of the Gods 2 had ideas that could have been put into play, but honestly, the characters are so bland and nothing about the world is fun or interesting, and it really feels empty. Because every single character, even though there's like dozens and dozens of characters in this world, none of them have any personality. Like I remember when I watched Slime, I can easily tell apart each and every character with each and every personality, because they all have some unique trait to them. Even if all of them love Rimuru, that doesn't change the fact that they all have some form of unique personality, and you can figure out who it is just by literally just describing the personality. But with this show, every character acts the exact freaking same, and it makes it like impossible to tell who's who. Like if I told you, try to figure out which character this is. They're nice, they really like Ryoma, and all that. You wouldn't be able to tell them apart because there's literally every single character acts like that! This show just really got on my nerves in its second season, especially with the repetitive dialogue. Nothing really unique about it, and overall, just nothing fresh and new. I really wanted to like this season. I really wanted to get into it. I really wanted to enjoy it, but I couldn't because there's nothing here to really enjoy. There's nothing here for me to say, oh yeah, that was cool. That was nice. There's no plot. There's nothing interesting here. They very rarely get into anything big, and it doesn't feel like any progression has been made, even though a lot of stuff has happened. And I can't stand it, man. If there was a season 3, I don't think I'd bother. Like, this was not good. It was so boring, and honestly, I felt like I wasted a lot of time just sitting down and watching this, and I kind of regret it, but that's just how it is. And as I mentioned before, it's not like the worst thing ever, but it really was a waste of time. So, yeah. That's all I really have to say, so we're at the conclusion of this video, and what are my final thoughts? It wasn't that amazing. It was more, like, average than anything else, but I feel like I wasted a lot of time trying to watch this anime, and I regret sitting down and checking it out, because even though I enjoyed season 1, season 2 felt like a massive just waste of time and energy, and I regret sitting down and watching this. And yeah, that's why I have to give By the Grace of the Gods 2 a 5 out of 10. It's weak, but as I mentioned, it's also kind of average. Definitely not really interested in checking out the third season if there is one. If there is a third season, I probably won't watch it, but yeah. That's all I really have to say, so thank you all for watching. If you're new to the JGC Anime channel, don't forget to subscribe. I also do anime fans to the channel, and I will see you all around. Peace!